Sizemore, Random T, Frank the Tank, Amber Butler, first time live stream viewer, awesome. Mantis God, cool. So, got several people in here already and some likes. And who's going to be the first one to tell me which species and type we're looking at right now? Not just the species, but the specific type. In other words, locality. Hey, there's Salvo too. Welcome. Oh, Frank the Tank got it. Porcelio Hoffman's Egg Eye Black. Very nice. Recognizable for their darker color and their narrower skirt. And they're all chowing down on Supreme Isopod Chow. And there's Chet Kanzi, welcome. And Brandon, okay, awesome. I will make sure to check that email very soon. Critters and More, hello. Ah, Mentis got you. almost got it typed, huh? Well, it's worth a try, right? All right. And here's Kekapania, Pain, and you're welcome. Glad that I've been able to give you some good information. And G3N, I'll just call you that. How's that? Hey, welcome. And Random T got as hard as Hoffman. That's pretty cool. That works. That's close. So I am going to look up questions on Patreon right now as we gaze upon these critters here. I had a question from Sandy. Let's see. Sandy Sizemore. Just gotta find that. That was okay. It was in messages. It said, what would you do if a family or person wanted to buy an animal from you at an expo, but you just know that child is going to be too rough, or that commitment is going to turn into a rehome, or any other reasons make you uneasy about the sale? Yeah, that is a tough question because it's so hard to be sure what's going to happen in the future. I mean, you may sell to someone who seems to be the perfect owner and turns out not to be. That could happen too. But what I've done in cases like this is basically I have tried to just discourage the person from buying by explaining, and very gently, but trying to explain, well, this might not be the best fit for you, to be honest. Let me suggest some other options. And when I do that, I think they often, a couple things go through their mind, but one of them is I'm not trying to make a sale at the expense of all else. And that if I'm trying to do that, if I'm trying to make sure that the animal's welfare is important, sometimes at least they realize, oh, well, maybe this isn't the best fit. He's not just trying to push a sale on us. And then sometimes that gets them to listen. Not always, but sometimes it does. And another thing, I think that helps is that I try to point out what is going to be difficult about it for them and say, oh, this is going to, you're going to have to do this for maintenance, and they may not have considered that. And sometimes they'll just say, oh, yeah, you're right, this is not the best thing for us. And I think that can help. So I hope that helps. That's something that I've used successfully before. And I'm checking the chat a little bit. Random T wants to ask, how often would you change Millipede substrate? Totally depends on what you've got going on. And basically, this depends on millipede density. It depends on the amount of substrate. You have the ratio of substrate, like cubic inches of substrate in ratio to millipede biomass, basically, which I don't necessarily calculate that very specifically, but it's something to keep in mind. So let's say you had 6 Spirostreptus species 1 in a bin with 8 inches of really premium substrate. And you might say, oh, in 6 months I look in there and I see it's mostly frass at the surface, and I dig down a little bit, not too much because you don't want to bug the millipedes, but I noticed that most of it is frass. It's time to change it. It might not happen that fast, but just throwing that out there. You see a lot of frass at the surface, and there's not really any places that look like it's good substrate anymore. It's mostly frass. It's high time to change it. Probably should have changed some of it a while ago, but not necessarily the maybe you should have changed it already before I got to that point. You know what I'm saying? And then let's say you have the same container with 30 bumblebee millipedes, and it happens faster or it happens slower. It's not so much how often you do it as a general rule, but you keep an eye on how fast the substrate is being degraded, what type of quality substrate are you putting in there, how much are you changing at a time too. So if you change out half the substrate in your millipede enclosure every 3 months, there's a lot of millipedes that'll be fine with that. But if your density is too high, it's not going to work. And then if your density is much less, or your ratio of millipedes to substrate, you might not be able to get away with that. It might be not often enough. Do you see what I'm saying? So how much substrate do you add to your bioactive Qriket setup? Critters and more. I've got about 1.5 inches in there. It seems to be working right now. So yeah, right in there. And Mentis God, your bioactive Qriket setup is similar to yours. Awesome. And glad you enjoyed the video. So random T, sorry, if you have a lot of frass, it's probably time to change out maybe 1/3 to 1/2 of that substrate. And clognog, vinegarins are hard to gauge when they're going to come up after they molt. They seem to just be on their own little timetable, and sometimes it's June or July before they come up after having gone down in October, November. Hard to say. Okay, G3N, well, thanks for coming in, and that's awesome that you were able to come today, and if you can come back, more's the better. Steven Sager says, you were correct, I did not need dwarf whites for my Renault enclosure. Seems like I have quite a number of powder orange. Excellent. I remember talking to you about that, and I'm glad that worked out for you. And Frank the Tank, thanks for putting that bioactive Qriket setup link up there. That video's actually been pretty popular, and I'm excited about that, so that was fun. And the Keep is doing the bioactive Qriket setup on native field crickets. Awesome. Yeah, it's really fun when I think of an idea and post it and it turns out to be something people like. You never know. Like, I thought it was super cool when, I think it was last year, I encountered both a garter snake and a rattlesnake at the creek and did some pretty good photography, I thought, or videography of them. And I posted that, and it has fewer than 1,000 views, even now. Kind of sad. Even though I got really good footage of this baby rattlesnake and stuff. Yeah, clognog, it could be longer than a month. Although this is the season, typically they're active. I've had vinegar stay into June, maybe even July, so. And Mentis God, you've got mealworm beaters, domestic beetles, dwarf whites, and springtails. A lot going on in there. Did you post something about that and saying how it's working really well? Because that seems kind of familiar. Okay, Newburger bought 10 BP. And 10 C Marina. I don't know why I'm blanking on BP. Can you remind me what BP stands for? Why am I not? Why is that not working for me? I don't know why. But exact same closure with mostly dry moisture station, hiding woods, calcium, but the BP survival rate dropped. Why? Well, blue powder. Okay, blue powders. Could be a few different things. One is when you bought them and you put them on substrate, was the substrate just like super fresh? So springtail's been sitting on it and you know, kind of letting it cycle for a month or so, or not? Sandy, maybe do some more vids on keeping feeders. Yeah, I should. It's been a long time. I have tons of videos on my channel about keeping feeders, but a lot of them are really old. I need to do some fresher ones. And the keep, I don't doubt it. That totally makes sense. You'd have a vinegaroon for almost a year. Okay, Stephen, organic topsoil, organic ground soil. I'm not sure what you mean by the difference between those two, but sand and some organic and some earthworm castings is an arid bioactive substrate. Depends on what you're keeping in there. I could totally see that working though with certain things. Yeah, it kind of just depends on what you've got in there in terms of cleanup crew, in terms of species, and so on. Oh, we've got a super chat from Mr. and Mrs. Marilia. Welcome and thank you. What isopod species would you recommend for natural variation, not morphs? Just natural variation of color and pattern. Okay, well, I'm going to see if this counts. You tell me if it counts. If it doesn't, I'll give you some other options. But something like Armadillidium vulgare Santa Lucia, the locality, so it's not a morph, it's a locality, or Armadillidium vulgare Punta Cana, same thing. Morph, not a locality. You're going to get a lot of natural variation in those. If that fits the bill, then great, and if not, let me know and we'll talk about some other options. Amber Butler got blue and orange powder culture at the same time for PetSmart. Oranges are great, but the blue crashed right away too. It can have to do with the freshness of the culture. For example, if they were kind of knocking on death's door when you got them at the pet store because they were a month older than the other ones, or something like that, and they had been sitting in the pet store in suboptimal conditions for that long, and then you got both of them and one of them is a lot fresher, then that's a possibility. I'm not going to say that's the only way that happens, but it could. So Andrew, night gold color morph, a common mutation. So yellow markings on Armadillium vulgare, specifically females in most cases. There are some types, some strains in which the males have a lot of it too, but most of the time it seems to be linked to females. That's not uncommon at all. What is uncommon is an extremely high proportion of it, and when I found the founding members of Night Gold, I found one that was almost entirely yellow, and that's fairly rare when they're adults. It's not rare at all when they're young. So hopefully that answers that question. So I have never found powdered blue to be particularly fragile. I have found them to prefer some ventilation. They can do pretty good with various levels of humidity and moisture in the substrate though. And George, these are Porcellio Hoffmannsegei Black. Okay. So Sandy, is it possible to get mold out of the substrate? Substrate was new. I cooked it and then molded, sadly, which can happen with cooked substrate. And you're allergic to it. Darn, oh, that's frustrating. I would say it's pretty challenging to remove mold entirely from substrate, partly because you can remove whatever visible mold you see, but there will be spores and possibly actively growing mold elsewhere in the substrate. So it's pretty hard to get rid of. And those spores can get airborne too. So yeah, that is harder than I would like. I would prefer it to be easier, but it's not. Okay, so Mentis got, I'm wondering if you're getting, some of the critters are eating the Qriket eggs in there. Could be. So maybe reducing the numbers of crickets that actually hatch. Possible. Okay, Stephen, so I'm wondering what's going on there. Topsoil and ground soil. Yeah, I haven't heard the term ground soil used, but that's just, it could be a regional thing or whatever. Topsoil, certainly, I've heard that. When I think about this, I don't see any really red flags with your leopard gecko. I do see that, some people are going to say, oh, sand is awful for leopard geckos. And sand, if there is poor husbandry going on, can certainly be bad for leopard geckos. But I would say if you have it in a mixed substrate and everything else with the husbandry is working, then you can probably make it work. And that invisible guy. Oh, excellent. Glad to have helped you jump into the invertebrate hobby. And you're welcome, Andrew. Oh, lots of mushrooms going on, Sandy, in there. Yeah, you might just have to replace the substrate entirely in a case like that. And George, I use eggshells. I grind up the eggshells fairly fine and give them to my isopods. They seem to like them. I also use them to mix into the substrate when they're finely ground to help kind of balance pH and so on. Okay, Mantis God, let's see what that does when you add that new egg-laying area. Yeah, it sounds good to me, Stephen, then. Oh, bagging the mold. That's a good idea from Mantis God for Sandy. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but CHMO. Thank you for watching all the way from Russia. That's awesome. Oh, Mantis God, air purifier. I've thought about putting an air purifier in this critter room, just the kind that breaks down particles and also collects them, something like that. Clognog. Will dairy cow eat assassin bug eggs? I'm not sure because I haven't kept assassin bugs, but it seems likely that they might try. We'll go with that. And Vicky White, dairy cow's head base, awesome. Congrats on that. More to come, right? Well, airplanes are coming by. I think I'm going to switch out these Porcellia Hoffman's Egg Eye Black because we've been watching them for a while, and watch something else. What do you think? Some different isopods? Shall we? Just going to set these down over here. And sorry for the bare pad there. I don't see much going on, but we'll take a look at something that you can see, hopefully. TOSOT, the brand of purifier that Mantis God uses. Cool. See, Aries is here. I'm going to move this branch so you can see just a little better, hopefully, and move a couple of other things. Take a look and see if we can check out what the Armadillo Gestroy are doing. And Frank to Tank, I appreciate that. It's awesome. Look at all the baby Gestroy. So many baby Gestroy. Different ages and everything. Okay, so Andrew, you've been using the ground up oyster shell, yeah. I've also offered them the coral calcium. I think a lot of times the calcium needs of isopods are just a little bit over exaggerated, I guess. Not that they don't need calcium, they definitely do. They can a lot of times get it from the dietary sources they already get anyway, and they don't necessarily need as much supplementary calcium as they get. So new burgers given fresh carrots. Your isopods are not liking the fresh carrots. I don't think carrots are my go-to. They'll eat them if they get hungry enough, and that's fine. But rabbit pellets isn't bad as long as you give them small quantities. I like to use organic sweet potato and zucchini and any kind of squash as my go-to vegetables for isopods. Not that I don't give them other things, I do. But if I had to pick, it'd probably be sweet potato and any kind of squash, whether summer squash or winter squash. Those are my two go-tos. Gonna put the Gestroy away now. take a look what we got here. Another one. One of my personal favorites, probably my favorite Porcellio. Porcellio scabrolaba. Check those out. Look at those colors. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Morelia. Okay, Punta Cana is definitely along the lines of what you were thinking about. Great, that's awesome. And, oh yeah, Porcellio labus California mix is another great one. I have that one. I don't know why it didn't occur to me, but I think that's a great one too. Because it's a locality, but it's naturally variable. Trying to think of some others out there that might do that. I think there's a Trichelopus rathke rainbow mix too. That's something like that. That it's just a locality that does that. So thank you again for another super chat. Really appreciate it. True, Random Tree. Springtail swarm the cucumbers. Yeah, labas have got to be just they're so variable. You get some that have mostly just the perion area that is dark. You get some that is just distributed all over the body. As you can see a couple here, like the one right in the middle of the screen. It's pretty evenly distributed between the two. Then there's some that are almost entirely wild types. You get everything. And you get some that are almost entirely orange too. Let's see if we can see any of those. There's one right in the middle of the screen, almost entirely orange, just a little bit of dark. You've got one just a little bit over, now right in the middle of the screen, that's almost well, not almost entirely dark, but it's mostly dark. Must resist the urge to buy. So McGee, I would totally wait and breed your Porcellionides pruinosus a little bit more. It won't take long. They're usually fast breeders. Before I put them in, it's always good to have a backup culture. And so I would get them going first. And you have, maybe 30 to 50 of them, which honestly will not take long. Then you can start doing that kind of stuff. I'm going to show you something I got from TJ and Roxy. This is a new isopod for me. I'm going to just kind of look in here carefully. I don't want to cause any issues. But I'm just going to poke around at the surface just a bit and see if I can see an adult. There's a bunch of tiny babies in there. I don't want to mess with them too much. Oh, there's one. There's one. Look at that. Woo! That's as far as I'm going to go on that. Not too far. Will you check that out? Who can name that species for me right there? I'm excited about this species. Pretty cool. So who can name it? Jody Sharp, welcome. Fancy boy. Yeah. Anybody know this one? You'll notice that it has more spots than Armadillidium klugii. It's a pretty cool species. Oh, it's Werneri. Sadflorens got it. Yep, and they do look a lot like Montenegro, but they have more rows of spots and they get bigger. And you'll notice the color on this one. It's basically solid orange with white spots, which is cool. Ooh, new burger. Rubber duckies cost $400 for 10 of them. Wow, that's about twice as expensive if you're going with US dollars. About twice as expensive as it is here. And Jody, welcome. Did I say welcome Jody already? I'm not sure. I'm trying to welcome everyone. So these are related to clowns, same genus, but not clowns. Yeah, so Sadflorens, yeah, these are fantastic. Fantastic species. I'm looking forward to keeping them. But that's true, Random T. They're expensive everywhere, no matter where you go. So I'm going to put this leaf back. Let them have their little hide back. And put them back. I don't want to stress them out too much. I'm just excited that I got these from TJ and Roxy. We did a trade, and pretty excited about it. They included this enclosure too, which is pretty cool. So I am looking forward to getting them going. There's quite a few babies in there. That'll be fun. And our Visser. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you enjoy it. Let's see, what are we looking at now? I have to save that one for a rainy day. Let's see if my Marullinella species Vietnam can show up. There are a lot of people who think that these might not be Marullinella at all. These just got fed. My daughter was feeding them. That looks maybe like a little bit too much for the number of Marullinellas I have in here. Maybe. Because there's not very many yet, but they're starting to breed. I've seen them. One thing they seem to like is a lot of leaf litter that's moist, and they just kind of hang out right under the surface. Oh, there's one. I don't know if you saw that running by. They're fast. There's a little baby. I don't know if you saw that. But yeah, they're starting to breed in here, and looking forward to getting a good colony going. These were a gift. Mark's Ark. For some reason his name's escaping me right now, but he's from Mark's Ark, his local pet store here, and he gave me some at the Expo, which is pretty cool. Oh, Oreo Crumbles, Theropod Hunter. One of my favorite of the Porcellonidae spruinosus. I'm gonna toss these back here. Well, not literally toss them. That would be a really bad idea, of course. Let's see. 1 second. I just have to detach myself from the mic. Just a second. This is my small bin of Porcellonidae spruinosus Oreo Crumbles. Looks like it needs a little bit of water in there, I would say. But looking okay. Let's see, how are we doing? Ooh, lots of wee ones. They went running. There's a bunch too right there. Very variable. So Oreo crumbles are great with all the different color variations. Oh, mantis cod. It'd be interesting to see if you got an all-white Klugii. Chet, am I going to have a booth at any upcoming expos? Good question. I've only done the couple of expos in my area, so the Wasatch Reptile Expo and the Reptilian Nation in my area. And I may be at one of those coming up fairly soon. Not entirely sure yet. And yes, Jody, I think it is a very good idea. If you know someone has poor intentions to, I think you can reserve the right to turn down a sale. You should. So Gretel, welcome. And does ABG alone acceptable isopod and millipede substrate doesn't need to be mixed with other substrates? I would say for a lot of isopods, if you put a nice layer of leaf litter on top of it, and you're feeding supplemental foods, you can get along with ABG mix with a lot of the isopods. I would not recommend it for most millipedes as the base substrate. I think it needs to be a bit more nutritious. I think I showed these last time, but just want to see what's going on in here. This is my orange crumbled project. You can see that there are some that are not crumbles in here, and maybe a few that are not orange, but most of them are orange crumbles. They're doing fairly well. They're breeding well. Theropod hunter? Really? They're going to shut down your reptile expos. That's miserable. Sorry to hear that. Not that everything that ever goes on in a reptile expo is perfect, but I think shutting them down is far more than needs to happen. It's an overreaction for sure. Very sorry to hear that. Oh. So Newburger. I don't have the red springtails, but I do have a local source for them when the time comes. I know someone who is working with them. Oh, it's the wrong way for the lid. So I may have to get some at some point. Gonna just take a peek and see if we can see any pseudoscorpions. Oh, I think I saw one duck into the wood chips there. But just kind of looking around and see tons of fruit flies and probably springtails and different things. There's a baby one. That is a baby, tiny, really young pseudoscorpion. Can you see that? This one's been producing a decent amount of baby pseudoscorpions lately. I hope you can see it. Let me see if I can zoom in on it. Just a touch. And see what's going on there. Yeah, you can see it just doing its thing. Hunting around for mites and tiny springtails and whatnot. That's about the only thing it eats when it's that small, as far as I know. Kind of cool to see. That's fun. I'd like to show you my velvet spider, but that's about as close as I can get because it's closed up its web. I think it might be preparing to molt because it's only got a tiny little hole there, which is cool because then I'll have a bigger velvet spider. Probably need to rehouse it soon after it hardens up from that molt, if that's indeed what it's preparing to do, but I think it is. And G3N, back in. Do I have a source for Thai spikies? Oh, my mic, I had my mic off, sorry. It was detached from me. It wasn't turned off, but it was detached from me. It is, I don't have a source for Thai spikies, no, that I know of. I mean, I haven't pursued looking for it. So, oh yeah. I can see what you're saying, Jody. Yeah, I would absolutely turn down a sale of that sort. Wanting a budgie just for the holidays and putting it back. I mean, it sounds like they want a Christmas ornament, not a bird. That's crazy. But I'm glad you turned them down. Be right with you. I'm going to show you my friend here who is on a hunger strike of a sort. It's not a serious thing going on, but generally, this has happened in the summer before when I've got them separated from the female, and they're interested in mating right now, and that's mostly what the males are interested in. So they don't really want to eat, but he's looking dapper. Love his colors. And this guy is one of the daddies. We don't really know if one of them is the daddy of all 28 babies that I have now, or if they're both fathers of some of them. We don't know. But they're actually going to their new homes really soon. If all goes well, we're going to ship them out either Tuesday or Wednesday next week. So, it kind of depends on the weather and stuff. They're going to be sexed on Friday. Working with Don of Don's Garter Snakes, he's going to help me out and make sure they're sexed correctly because I'm still learning that part of the process. So, he's going to help me out, and then going to ship them out, but they're eating like little pigs on minced pinkies, and they'll also take silver sides, earthworms. So they've had exposure to various foods, which is beneficial. Also good to give them some variety, but they really grow fast on the pinkies once they're taking that as their main diet. Oh yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Merrily, this dorsal stripe is pretty crazy, isn't it? It's kind of awesome. I love this subspecies. I've got some really cool news. I'm not going to spill the beans just yet, but I'll give you a hint. I've got some garters coming. I have 2 species of garter right now. 2 species of garter snake. I've got this one, Damnophis sertalis parietalis, so that's also a subspecies. And I have another one that I haven't revealed yet, which I will soon. But I also have another species coming. It's Wednesday today, right? Tomorrow. It's coming tomorrow. So excited. So that's as far as I'm going to go on the news. So that's what's coming. A new type of garter snakes coming tomorrow. And there will be a video about it soon. Oh, that looks totally weird from the surface. I wanted to show you. This is my jumping spider setup, and she has recently made an egg case. Not an egg case, but she's made an egg hammock, whatever you want to call it. She laid eggs in here, but they are not fertile because she's never had a mate. I got her when she was little. And here is her egg hammock, a very big one. Possibly the biggest one I've seen. She's also the biggest Phidippus regius that I've had. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Marilia, I'm not going to tell you what type it is, but I'm pretty excited about it. Let's just say that. So, I'm pretty excited about it. It's something I've been wanting for a long time. I hope everybody gets as excited about it as I do, but I am super excited. Okay. Now, I'm going to try to move. It totally does look like they have a hurricane theropod hunter. Is her name Mary by any chance? No, actually her name is Sky. I named her after Sky Island Adventures because I had a fantastic Sky Island adventure last year, and then I ordered that from Bugs in Cyberspace. Same people, Peter and Jesse that run both. But Sky Island Adventures is the ecotourism sort of bed, bug, and breakfast part of the business, and the actual bug sales are the Bugs in Cyberspace. So I thought I'd name it Sky in honor of Sky Island Adventures. So OJD, dairy cows are breeding, not the tropical gray or orange. Any advice? So tropical gray, I believe that is a term used in Europe to refer to Porcelia laevis. Am I right? And tropical orange too. Is that right? And bold jumpers can get pretty big too. Lake Chapala. I like those too. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can find any. I think this needs to be moistened a little bit. The moist side is pretty moist, but I just wanted to see this. I've had these for a while, and I think they're breeding pretty well in here, but they're not very visible. You gotta kind of gently look into the substrate for them because they can be hard to find. Oh, there's one. Anybody name this species? Oh, I knew what you were talking about, Gretel. And Jody, I totally agree. There are some insects that live a long time. Looks like this one is partway through the molting process. But a lot of them don't live nearly long enough. So I will say that this is either an adult or nearly an adult. So very tiny. Can anybody identify it for me? can see that it conglobates. You probably saw that a minute ago. It was conglobating when I found it. Shiro Utsuri, good guess, but it's not Shiro Utsuri. It looks a lot like one, but it's considerably smaller at its adult size. And there it went. It fell back into the substrate there. And it's not magic potion, and it's not marble. All of those are fairly close as far as appearance go. Armadillidium dalmatians, no. I could totally see why all of those were mentioned, because they look fairly similar. Let's look at a marbleized, though, and see how different they really are, because they're quite a bit different from the marbleized. Sorry for the exciting blueness. That was actually a Venezuela parvus Dalmatian, the one I just showed you. Venezuela parvus Dalmatian. These are what the marbleized look like. So the markings are a little bit more, how can I say them? A little bit more regular, maybe? Uh-oh. So Gretel Guerra, you had your Ornatus colony crashed. Weird. What? You have no idea why? Nothing, no leads, huh? That is strange. I'm not sure what to say there. I can say, can you tell me which morph and or locality it is of Porceli ornatus? I will tell you this, and hopefully this helps. You get a lot of conflicting information on ornatus and whether or not they like a moist spot and how much dryness they like and whatnot. Pretty conflicting. But yeah, that's a really sad thing to hear. I hope that you're able to get some more and get it going. When you say it crashed, is it completely dead? Or is it just you took a hit? Some are still kicking. That's good. Maybe you can get it going again. Because I've heard some people say, well, ornatus like it really dry except for one spot. And I've heard other people say, no, it's more about ventilation. They do like a moist spot, but they like good ventilation. And I've heard some people say too much ventilation and they'll stop breeding. So hard to say. High yellow. Yeah, high yellow is not the hardiest out there. It can do fairly well, but it's, in my experience, has not been the one that I have found to do the best for me of all the morphs. One second here. I find that mine, I sometimes have some die-off in my high yellows. I've never had the whole thing crash, but they're not the most prolific strain that I've had, at least in my experience. And sometimes I'll get crashes. Let's see. You can see just a couple on this piece of wood. Where are they all hiding? There's one. There's one. They're probably on this piece of wood, huh? No, there's not actually that many on here. I wonder where they're hiding out. Oh, there's a bunch of them right there. Okay. Yeah, so I do get die-off with this particular form of Porceli ornatus. And medium ventilation. Substrate get up too dry. Well, that will probably do it. That could be what happened. Because if you get them too dry, they will crash. There's another group of them there. And I do think they'll spend a lot of time on the dry end. Right now, most of mine are on the dry end, but they do like to have that wet spot. For sure. I mean, if it gets even a little bit too dry on that end, they're probably not going to do too well. Who is that? Theropod hunter. Yeah, you know, the younger ones are really kind of pale and almost white compared to the adults. They're going to get a lot more yellow. So you look at that one down there at the bottom, the smaller one, and it's almost white compared to these others. but the larger ones are definitely more yellow. They just do that as they age. Is that what you're talking about? Oh yeah, Gretel. Supreme Gecko Diet and prawns. You'll probably get them going. I hope so. So Alex, do I know of any leeches able to parasitize isopods? Are we talking aquatic leeches for aquatic isopods? I'm afraid I don't know much about that. It could be that there are some that I'm not aware of. I just don't know much about. But yeah, I'm afraid leeches are not my area of expertise. I've been bitten by them before, know a thing or two, but not a whole lot. So I saw a fun thing in my Armadillo Klugai Dubrovnik bin the other day. Let's see if we can take a peek at that, shall we? Look at all those babies. Tiny baby Dubrovniks everywhere. Some of them are a funny color, so I wonder what's going on with that. Hopefully you don't have contamination from another bin. Hopefully it's just, that's what they're looking like when they're young. Because when I look at them, I can see spots on some of the bigger ones. They're starting to get the Armadillo Klugai pattern. Oh, Theropod Hunter, having your Acellus aquatus in a culture due to minute obliterating him. Yeah, that would make sense. Hey Don, welcome. Christopher, hello. Kevin, hello as well. So yeah, it kind of had a little bit of a boom in there with the Dubrovniks, which is kind of fun. And put those away. Yeah, Oniscus Acellus is pretty awesome. And I've noticed I've got baby Mardi Gras in my Oniscus Acellus. You know, I have 3 different forms, the wild type, the BC maple, and the ones I was just talking about, which for some reason I can't say it. It's not coming out of my mouth. Ah, well, that's not awesome. I think my daughter forgot to put the food in their actual dish, and so it's sitting on top of this. It's okay. I just don't want to dump it on the substrate. But I was hoping we could see if there are some babies in here. I've seen babies in here, I just don't see any right now. Maybe I have to dig in the substrate a little bit. But I'm totally not seeing any right at the moment. That's too bad. But there are some adults and they're gorgeous. I mean, the white balance is not letting me see them as well as I would like to. They're pretty awesome. Oh yeah, Mantis God. I love the rolling racks. I need to do the rolling racks. I just have racks, but not rolling ones, but I would like to do that. Oh, and yellow dots, Kevin. Awesome. Love those. So Newberg, you want to see some Kubaris Marina? Let's take a look. How long do you think they'll grow from young to full size, meaning the Kubaris Marina? I don't know. I haven't worked with them long enough to tell. But we can certainly take a look at them. I've got 3 different forms of them right over here. Here are the wild types. Let's start with those first. Oh, now you get a look at my shelves. See, this is actually one of those black shelves that can roll, but I don't have the casters on it. So, this is Kubaris Marina wild type. Oh, I just dumped food around. That's not what I meant to do. And they're doing fairly well. You can see some different sizes going on in here. Kubaris Marina, look at those little faces. Cute little things. One of them looks kind of orange. I wonder what's going on there, if that's just a baby thing. So, Kubaris Marina, wild type. Notice they have little orange Europods, which is fun. And they've got incredibly cute little faces. That little rostrum going on. Fun little critters. Okay, these were sent to me by David Ferelli and Sparrow some time back. Let's see, I can check the date on the package here, on the container. So 2/17. So last February, February 17th. This one is Kubaris Marina papaya. One of the few isopods that actually looks pink. Pink. Let's see if we can find some. Saw some in here the other day. There's a couple. And there's one right there. And there's a big old superworm beetle. I use the superworm beetles. I've been experimenting with them to cure the cultures out. Nope, dropped him. I have to retrieve this beetle before he gets into the kitchen or something and upsets folks. So, there we go. Picked him up off the ground. They don't seem to be too bad for the cultures, but I'm still on the fence about how they're doing with that. But there is a nice exemplar of the Marina papaya. There's another one right there. Pink isopods, fun. Oh, here's my pie dish beetle. I've been keeping the pie dish beetle with them too. Fun little critter. This was sent to me by Bugs in Cyberspace. Just look at how that beetle looks with that concave elytrum, and the entire dorsal surface is concave. I love that. And it seems to thrive with the isopods. It's been in there for a good while. I don't think I've ever shown this on the live stream. It's just fantastic. So I did it as kind of an experiment after talking to, there's some more Kubaris Marina. I don't know if you can see the papayas running around in there. There's some more. But, yep. I think ideally what I would like to do is put one larva into the culture, or a small number of larvae, and then when they pupate, remove them. And that's when I know I can put the isopods in. I put them in with the springtails. They don't seem to hurt the springtails at all. And they introduce some good bacteria and so on. So it's good stuff. Here are the Kubaris Marina Glacier. So they're white. You can see there's some mold, unfortunately, on this piece of egg crate, but you can see they're white. And any color that they have, they even have white eyes. Any color that they have is just a color from the food they're eating. And I've seen that there are babies running around in here. There's a couple little babies ducking into the substrate. So those are fun. I like the glaciers, how they look. What I want to do eventually, when I have enough of all of these, is make a Kubaris beach mix. Is that what I think Ashley was suggesting? Ashley Nebel was suggesting maybe it was Beach Party, maybe? It was a cool name for them. I like the idea of calling them something like that. So it would be fun to have a mix of the different ones, the wild types, the pinks, and the whites. Let's see. And Frank the Tank, I think there's some validity there, and that's why ideally I would take once the larvae had pupated, I would take them out and put them elsewhere of the superworm beetles. I have kept, Christopher, I have kept small marine isopods, fully aquatic ones, in reef tanks. It's a fairly common thing that people do just because they use them as cleanup crew, and they just get them by putting live rock in their aquarium, and they end up breeding very well, and they're generally fairly small species. Super easy to take care of. If you just get a piece of live rock and you do all the things you need to do to set up a reef tank, but you stop there and don't add fish, you can have a colony of various species of marine isopods and amphipods, which is kind of cool. It's not hard to do at all, actually. So, and theropod hunter, I don't think that eating something blue would necessarily do that. But you could make them look sort of blue, I guess. Maybe if you give them a lot of blue food, they might look kind of blue. But it wouldn't merely be that they were a blue morph. It would just be temporary state. Yeah, sometimes dairy cows will sequester it into the white parts of their bodies, and you'll see the carotenoids or other natural colorants showing through. DA Exotics and Warren, hello, welcome. These are species. I want to see if anybody knows this species right here. And the morph. Love this one. Bug Realms, welcome. Yeah, superworms do show up where they're not wanted sometimes. They make great members of cleanup crews in various setups, but yeah. So, can anybody name these? I'm pretty excited about this particular type of isopod. One of my favorites, although I have a lot of favorites. Just want to see if we can get anybody else to know what they are. Have pretty high expression in most individuals, which is fun. But so far I don't see anybody naming them in the chat. That's interesting. Oh, okay, Frank got part of it. I think Frank knows. He's just giving us a hint. So, bored and experimental. Well, we're kind of running out on time, but maybe I have time to see if I can get over there and get it going. Oh, so Warren, you're doing a microvarium. Cool. I showed the microvarium, my microvarium on the last live stream, I think. That's when it was. Let's see, these are the night gulls. How are they doing? I haven't checked on them in a while, to be honest, so this will be informative for me as well as for you, hopefully. There's some specimens. Let's see if we get any high expression specimens. I go through here and cull them, remove the non-high expression ones. Fairly, I wouldn't even say regularly, I just do it once in a while. See nothing particularly fancy right there. Some fairly high expression individuals. That one's higher. That one's not too bad. You can see a lot of them have some, but the younger ones typically have a lot. Then as they get older, a lot of them lose it. They're pretty consistent after having bred for a number of generations that they'll have it, but some of them end up looking sort of Punta Cana-like. And of course the males still lack most of, I think this is a male that has some of the yellow pattern, which is kind of unusual, but they're not that many super high expression ones in there that I'm seeing right now. That doesn't mean they're not in there. But yeah, I guess the colony's doing okay. You can see some individuals that we showed that don't look too bad. But I'm not getting the results that I would hope for at this point. So Newberger, I missed what you were looking at. I think you might be talking about a baby isopod. Possibly. But yeah, so I guess there's some individuals in there that are doing okay. Let's see, how about my yellow phase that I'm trying to isolate from orange. So Taylor, you can email me at info@aquarimax.com. info@aquarimax.com. That should get you there. See, this is a yellow phase that I'm trying to isolate from the orange, and I still have plenty of orange in here, but I'm getting a lot of yellows with orange heads, orange faces, or their rostrum is orange, which is kind of fun. I'm not focusing very well on that. So I've been working on it slowly, trying to get them to express that. We'll see. Sometimes I get a fair number in here. Right now I'm not seeing any right now. Really, most of them are just like this individual, which is more of just the classic orange vigor. But working on it. So try that, Taylor, and see if that works for you. It did go pretty fast this time, didn't it? Well, thank you everybody for joining this stream. Thank you for the super chats, Mr. and Mrs. Morelia. I hope you all enjoyed the stream. I'm going to have a fun unboxing coming up really soon that involves snakes. So if you're into snakes, make sure you check that out. And I'm going to be filming it tomorrow and probably releasing it on Friday. That's the plan so far. So I hate to end a live stream with nothing in the way. So once again, those of you who guessed Silisticus convexus Ukraine pied, you were right. That's what this is. And thank you, everyone, and have a good one.